Just recently we managed to have a look at one or two of the pleasure wherries that are still making their way around the Broads of Norfolk and Suffolk. However, there was a different type of wherry, and this was called the Black Sailed Trader. There are only two originals still in existence plying their way up and down the rivers. One of them is the Albion, the other the lovingly restored Maud. And this is the story of Maud and why she earned the nickname the wherry who refuses to die. Sometimes when you're just cruising up the river you meet some interesting sailing craft, but not very often would you see a wherry such as Maud, one of only two black sailed traders still in existence. It wouldn't have been so many years ago that wherries such as Maud and Albion would be plying their trade up and down between the ports of Norfolk and Suffolk and the main towns and cities, moving bricks, farming materials and everything else that later got transferred to rail and road. Although some were converted to pleasure use, many were just simply sunk, and that was the case with Maud, until two really dedicated people came along and decided that Maud needed to be saved, and then embarking on a long journey to bring her back in full sailing condition and under a charitable trust.
My name's Linda Pargeter, and my history with this boat dates back to 1979 when my late husband and I were looking for a wherry to restore. In 1981 we decided that the wreck of the Maud was the best wreck we could find, and so we planned to have her pumped out because she was sunk at that point. We had her pumped out and taken round by road to Upton, where she was lifted out of the water by two big mobile cranes, and we proceeded to embark on our 5-year plan to restore her. It didn't take 5 years, which might surprise you when you see the photographs. It actually took us 18 years. So from 1981 to 1999, we were working on Maud. We were travelling up from our home in Essex, and as you can imagine, we were extremely pleased when we neared completion of the project. And to celebrate it and to make sure that we did finish on time, we organised a big party on Wroxham Broad. So that was in 1999. We sailed her then until 2015 as a private boat. And in 2015, we formed the Wherry Maud Trust to look after her, we hope, in perpetuity.
I'm Nigel Gutteridge, I'm one of the trustees of Wherry Maud Trust, and we're going to do a little bit of a tour of the boat. So now we're going to go into what was the cargo hold. So this is the wherry hold. This is where, in its trading days, the cargo went. And it could take about 40 tonnes of cargo, and its original use was with Jewson's moving timber from Great Yarmouth to Norwich. Boat here we have a timeline, so on the one side here we have from its building and its owners, going through various skippers of what wherries did, where wherries went. Like you see there's one at Cantley. And through Maud's history, we go from moving timber from Yarmouth to Norwich, going through general contractors and finishing up really working as a river boat here, maybe working on the underside of a bridge in Norwich. And eventually by the 1960s, nobody wanted wooden boats, they were leaky, and it was sunk at Ranworth Broad for riverbank protection. Vincent and Linda Pargeter set their heart on having a clinker-built trading wherry. The Albion is Carvel, so it's smooth-sided, and they wanted a clinker-built one. So they went round various places, and the best one they could find was moored. It was positioned where the floating visitor place is in Ranworth. Pulled out of there, pumped out, it did float with a little bit of help, and it was taken round to Upton. At Upton they had cranes which took it out the water, and then they'd got to start restoring it. They had a 5-year plan. This got extended to 18 years because basically this was a weekend job for them. They were trying to do it themselves, but in the holidays they did use Colin Butterfant, who was starting his business then, and he would do, I'm told, about 6 weeks in the summer doing some of the planking work. These years went on. They had to get a new mast, reframe, replanking, winch made, and by 1999, this boat centenary, it was sailing again. And there we see that picture on the left and at the bottom on the day in September 1999 when it was back sailing again for the first time since probably the end of the First World War. This covered the cargo.
Yeah.
So yes, these can cover cargo, but they can all come off because if you have to load the wherry, you can take them all off and put them to the various ends.
Yeah.
And also you can use the mast as a crane to put whatever you want into a particular part of the hold, inclining the mast at whatever angle.
This is the Cuddy Cabin, just at the back here. Absolutely beautifully finished. Never leave home without a tyre. And 2 small doubles. And a beautiful stove. And this would have been running. And there's a chimney that goes out here. The mast is stepped. The boom is sitting on top of that at the moment. But when the boat's sailing, this would have been running, and there's a small chimney that goes on top as well. Absolutely stunningly beautiful. And across the whole top of the wherry are these planks covered in a tarpaulin. And when the boat's sailing, it wouldn't have been unusual to have the water coming up to the top of the freeboard. That's what's considered where it's been fully loaded. But there's a difference obviously between the water at Yarmouth, which is very heavily salted, salinated, into the fresh water of the Broads. You say when they carried cargo generally that the water line, it was up to the top of the freeboard when and that was considered a full load.
Full cargo, yeah.
Wow.
And they had to be careful because there's a difference in the buoyancy between the salt water in Yarmouth
Yes.
and the fresh water up in Norwich.
How did it ever happen that they literally came out into the brackish water and it started sinking? Or
by the time you're a skipper of these, you're
You'd
experienced enough to know about those
Yeah.
sort of things.
yeah, because of course it would be sitting much higher in the water in Yarmouth than it would do as soon as you get into the
But I mean,
into the fresh water.
Before they let you take one of these out, you'd have had to serve your apprenticeship
Oh gosh,
as,
yeah.
as a crewman.
Yeah, because these are valuable boats in those days. These were like the top end of the
Well, it's
top end of
interesting
the
because
trading.
in 1905, Hartor was built by the same firm that built this, and
Yes.
the hull and sailing fittings for Hartor were £550 in 1905.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's a
if
lot
you
of
think
money.
of that in terms of wages, it was built for the Coleman family, and Coleman work would have been on probably about £125 a week.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an investment that an owner
Yeah,
would
yeah.
have to put in.
Being invited aboard this wonderful wherry was an absolute privilege, especially when I got to learn so much about its history from those who are crewing it today and Linda herself, who'd rescued the boat so many years ago. It's only fitting that we leave the last word to Linda to tell you how you can get involved with the Wherry Moored Trust and also get the chance to sail on board this wonderful vessel.
We now sail with members on board, and we charge the grand sum of £15 per annum for membership, and for that you receive emails and you can take a trip. So it's a very friendly organisation. You can come as an individual or a couple, or even arrange for some of your friends to join and come along as well.
Thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed being on board the boat and learning a little bit about the history, and just seeing it sailing down the river was an absolute pleasure. So thank you again. Good luck in the future, and please do support these wherries. There's only 8 wherries still sailing on the Broads, and there's only 2 black sailed wherries, which is one is moored, the other being Albion at the moment. So these are very, very special. So thank you so much, Linda, and thank you for doing what you've done to keep this piece of history alive.
Well, thank you, Gavin, for making the video and for coming aboard and supporting us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.